Hello friends, my name is McKenna and welcome to Knit Between the Lines, a knitting podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about what I'm knitting, what I'm spinning on, and my love for other fiber arts. So grab whatever project you're working on and let's get into it. So it's been a while since I last chatted with you guys. Life has gotten a little crazy. Work's gotten really busy and just been really exhausted and things happening in the world. I just haven't really been in the right mindset to film a podcast or really had the energy to film a podcast. But that also means I have a lot to share with you guys today. So let's get probably the more exciting thing out of the way, which is of course, finished objects. The first one I want to share with you guys is actually my shift cowl by Andrea Mowry, which is what I'm wearing right now. In the last podcast, I hadn't even casted this project on. I just showed you the colors I had purchased and my plans for the project, but it wasn't even on the needles yet. And it's been a few weeks since that last podcast was actually filmed, since before I had even posted it on YouTube. So I've had a lot of time to actually finish this project. And you guys, I love it so much. I love the colors. I love how it all worked out. It looks so good. So here, let me show you like on me. Absolutely beautiful. The colorways I chose were kind of out of my comfort zone. I'm usually not a orange red kind of gal, but I do love the like teal that I chose, which is Lathe from Spin Cycle. This whole project centered around one skein of Spin Cycle that I had found that I fell in love with, which was Launch Test, which is equal parts like a light blue teal with like really pretty deep reds in it. So I kind of centered the cowl around that one skein of yarn, which was I chose to be my B colorway, which I believe is like this color right here. And then I chose Lathe to be on the cooler end and then Velocore to be on the warmer end. And I think it turned out really good. There are a couple areas that have quite a bit of low contrast, like you can see like right here, this area, that's where the Velocore and the Launch Test had very similar colors. But I think that's kind of the beauty of the shift cowl. It has a mixture of high contrast and low contrast. I just feel like this turned out so good and I really enjoy it. I loved it so much that I bought more yarn to make a second one. I told myself it was because one of them could be for Cameron, who is my husband, but we both know they're both for me. But you know, we tell ourselves what we need to tell ourselves to validate yarn purchases. So I highly recommend this pattern. It is mosaic knitting, so it is a super fun way to either introduce yourself into color work, or it's just a fun technique in general to knit. I'm kind of on a mosaic knitting kick right now, and I already have another shift cowl planned. I just finished my sideline wrap, and I have the night shift shawl planned as well. And I had just finished my pressed flowers cardigan. So if you can't tell, I'm quite a bit of a fan of mosaic knitting, and I can't wait to cast on my next one. My second and final finished object to share with you guys today is also a project that I had shared in the last episode, and that is the Musselburgh hat by Ysolda Teague. Last time we saw this project, I had just finished the crown increases and it was just getting ready to go into the marathon, that is the tube part of the hat. And I love the Musselburgh pattern so much because I find it super easy and addictive to knit. This pretty much became my TV knitting because I didn't have to think about what I was doing, and it really satiated that plain stockinette craving I had after knitting the pressed flowers cardigan, and I finished it pretty quickly, not gonna lie, and I've already been wearing it so much. So here it is. It looks so good. This is out of yarn from Coastal Yarns in Cannon Beach, Oregon. This is Haystack Rock. And I think it turned out so good. I was a little worried about color pooling because it was a heavily variegated speckled yarn, but it actually worked out pretty great. It's mostly just little micro stripes for the most part, and a lot of those speckles, I think the speckles kind of help blend out that color pooling a little bit. The only place that there's color pooling is like right here in the crown, and that's just because of the rate of increases that you're doing. It all kind of worked out pretty well, especially because no one's gonna, I don't see the top of my head, so that doesn't matter. As long as I can't see it, it's not my business. You know what I'm saying? But I love it so much. It fits me perfectly. I have a head circumference of 23 inches and the pattern, the adult medium is 22 inches and the adult large is 24 inches. So it's kind of right in the middle. I had decided to go down a size to the adult medium because I do prefer my hats to have a little bit of negative ease. So they're like nice and snug around my head. There's nothing worse than knitting a hat and it being too loose and it just kind of like flops around on your head, all the air gets in there, which defeats the purpose of wearing a hat. And I think I am really happy with that decision. It fits me really, really well. And it still has that like little bit of extra fabric at the top to give that like kind of slouchy beanie vibe. I love it so much. The Musselburgh hat will always be a go-to hat pattern for me. I actually have an extra skein of this because the yardage listed on the label was less than the typical amount of sock yarn. So I bought two just in case I needed it, and I didn't. But now Cameron has requested to have one as well because he also really likes the colorway and likes the hat as well. I have knit him a Musselburgh hat in the past that he wears all the time. But it's nice to have some variety, and if he has more than one hat, he won't wear through them as quickly either. So who knows, maybe the next time I need a little stockinette fix, I'll cast on the other skein for Cameron. So with that, let's get into whips. So obviously the 2 whips I shared last episode are already finished. So of course I have 2 brand new projects to show you in addition to some other lingering whips that I haven't really been working on. And the first one is a long anticipated cast on, and that is Cameron's Rhue sweater by Rebecca Clow. The Rhue sweater by Rebecca Clow is a combination of a contiguous, almost saddle shoulder-like sweater that then turns into a raglan, which I'm really intrigued by that style of sweater. Funnily enough, I've never knit a raglan sweater, which I know is kind of crazy because I feel like that's the go-to sweater for most beginner knitters. I started with a circular yoke. Okay, I guess that's not true. I guess I did do a raglan, but I pretend that sweater doesn't exist because it was not good. It was so bad. I chose the wrong yarn and it just, we donated it. We pretend she doesn't exist. So I guess I did knit a raglan like one time, but it was just a really bad experience and that was my fault. I just didn't choose the right yarn and it was not good. So other than that sweater, for which I knit like 3-4 years ago, every other sweater I've knit has either been a circular yoke like my Alpenglow or has either been a drop shoulder, because my Alpenglow is a circular yoke, my Stick Season, my Ingrid sweater, my tessellated are all drop shoulders, and so is my cardigan. Technically, the Pressed Flowers cardigan is also a drop shoulder, so I like drop shoulders. So, but I have been really interested in raglans for a while. I've just not knit any of them. So I guess I'm testing it out by knitting Cameron one first. And I think he's gonna really, really like it. I chose to do the size 8 for him. He has a pretty broad chest. The chest measurement, the finished chest measurement for the size 8, I believe is 53 inches. And his chest measurement is like 51 inches. The pattern calls, I believe, for like 2 to 6 inches of positive ease, if I remember correctly. So we're sitting right there at like the 2 to 3 inches, which I think will be perfect for him, especially because his waist tapers, so it shouldn't fit too oddly on him. I think it'll look really nice. For yarn, I bought this yarn a while ago from Explorer Knits and Fibers monochrome collection. At the time of this release of the collection, the Rhue sweater had not been published. It was in testing, but I had reached out to her, to Rebecca, and I was like, hey, I really want to buy yarn from the monochrome collection from Explorer Knits. Can you give me an estimation on how much yarn I would need for X sizes? And she gave me her preliminary yardage, and she did warn me that it might change when the actual pattern is published. And oddly enough, it's actually less than what I had bought. So we're all good. For the main color, Cameron chose Forest Floor, which is this really pretty, like really deep olivey foresty green, which Cameron is more on the warmer side for skin tone, so I think it'll look really, really good on him. And then the contrast color, which will be in the color work and then down at the bottom of the sweater, he chose Woolly, which is this really pretty like taupey color. It looks so nice. I also bought this color for my contrast color on my Rhue sweater that I will eventually knit for myself whenever we get there. He chose the Rockies DK, which is their superwash base. Cameron has pretty sensitive skin, so I didn't want to do non-superwash, and it really irritate his skin because then he won't wear it. So super soft, he's gonna love it. The yarn that I had chosen for mine was non-superwash, so I'm really curious to see what the difference in knitting that up is. I'm pretty sure the yarn that was used for the actual pattern was non-superwash, but I think we'll be okay. My swatch blocked out just fine. It didn't grow super much, so I'll just be very mindful about that when I do block it. Here's what I have so far. It's not much. It's gonna be kind of awkward to hold up, but here we are. This is the back neck. Here are the saddle shoulder detail. So you do the saddle shoulder, and then these like seams created by the saddle shoulder become the raglan seams. And I think it's gonna be a really nice, like unique fit, and I'm super excited to see how he likes it, especially because he's broad shouldered. I'm curious. But I had just started the color work, so there's not much to see except for my pretty floats. I'm only a couple rows into the color work at this point, but the pattern is a little confusing because of it being a raglan. There's like 4 different charts. There's a chart for the front and the back, there's a chart for the shoulders, and then there's a chart for each seam. So like you work chart A, and then you do chart D, which is that's like raglan seam, and then you do chart B for the sleeve, and then you do chart C for the other raglan seam, and then vice versa. So it's a little more confusing than I was anticipating. Like, I've knit color work before and I really love color work, so I'm used to reading charts, but now that I'm bouncing through 4 different charts in one row, it's a little intimidating and a little confusing, so I've not knit this one on it as much as I would have liked to. I still am really enjoying the process and like the yarn itself. I'm just trying to like reorient my brain on having to skip to different charts all the time and like manage my increases and everything at the same time. So to each their own, but I'm super excited, and I'm kind of treating this as like a trial run, because once I do this, I'll have like the pattern kind of more solid in my brain for when I go to knit mine. It won't be as much of a confusing experience. But so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm really loving how the colors are working up. I love the yarn. I'm just struggling trying to get used to how the pattern is written. My next work in progress that I have casted on is actually with yarn that's been in my stash for at least a year, if not longer. I believe it was last year or anytime when we were in Boston, a good friend of ours, Lacey, came up to visit and we took her to Salem, Massachusetts. And there actually is a local yarn store in Salem, Massachusetts called Circle of Stitches. And it is, of course, like witchy themed because it's Salem, Massachusetts. And I had bought yarn for an Attune shawl by Andrea Mowry. This pattern, for whatever reason, really intimidated me because I am not familiar with either brioche or half fisherman's rib, which is what basically makes up the entire shawl. I have knit one brioche project in my entire knitting career, and it was a Harlow hat. And it's because I had leftover sport weight yarn from my tessellated, and I was like, oh great, this will be a perfect opportunity to learn brioche. And it went really well, but it was also super frustrating because I was only using one color, so if I dropped a stitch, it was really hard to figure out how to fix it, because at least in 2-color brioche, you can definitely tell which one is supposed to be the yarn over and which one's the actual like knit stitch or purl. When everything is one color and it's that complicated of a fabric, it's a lot harder. But it definitely helped me get used to the actual like pattern itself. But that was the only brioche project I had ever worked on. I have never touched half fisherman's rib or fisherman's rib ever in my life, but I was told that the texture itself is pretty similar to brioche. So I didn't cast on the project because I was intimidated by the pattern, even though I really wanted the shawl. And you know what? I decided after finishing the shift cowl, instead of casting on another one immediately, I was like, okay, I should give myself a break. And I just finished a stockinette project, which was my Musselburgh hat. So I wanted some texture that wasn't going to be like super overwhelming. Even though I was intimidated by this project, I don't know what my brain thought. I was just like, you know what, we're just gonna send it. So I casted it on and I'm actually really enjoying it. The pattern repeat is technically it's 4 rows because it's 4A, 4B, or 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, because it's main color and contrast color, but you're essentially working like 4 rows twice. And so it's like 8. I don't know. It's confusing to even talk about. But I finally casted it on, and I finally hit a point where I actually have the repeat memorized, and it's not complicated. It's really not that hard. Like once you get a lay of the land on how brioche works and how half fisherman rib works, it's actually really easy to work. And here it is. It looks so good. Like for me not having really any experience with brioche or half fisherman's rib, I feel like I caught on pretty quickly. So for the yarn, I chose a couple different ones. So for my main color, I chose this, which is Malabrigo sock yarn in Jasmine. It's a really, really pretty like matcha light green color, jasmine if you will. It's kind of blown out because of my light, but looks really, really pretty. And then for the spin cycle, I chose 3 different colors. And the pattern doesn't talk about like striping anything. I think it's kind of choose your own adventure situation. The pattern is written to where you can do as many of the repeats as you want to create as different size of the shawl as you go. She has some suggestions for the 2 samples that she made. She has the suggestions for how many repeats she did for her samples. So I'm following her sample 1 suggested repeats, but I might kind of adjust things as I go because I do have quite a bit of yarn, so we'll see. But for my spin cycle, I chose Lace, which is this really pretty like teal green color, teal blue green. And then I chose Family Jewels. Whoop, doo, doo, doo. And then I chose the Meadows. So my thought process is that I'm gonna do it kind of as a fade because it's going from like this deep blue green to like this blue green that has a lighter blue and teals and like oranges and yellows and purples. And then that's gonna fade into this, which has a light blue and more of the greens in it. So I think it'll look really, really good. Let me see if I probably can't hold up all of this. Well, maybe I can. There we go. It looks good. So I looked at some of the projects on Ravelry. Some people like striped theirs every 12 rows to kind of get more of a stripey feeling. And some people just knit it until the spin cycle was finished. So I hadn't really decided what I wanted to do, but now I'm kind of committed in one direction. So I'm just gonna go until each skein is done, I think. I think that's gonna be the most enjoyable process because I don't have to worry about how many rows I'm doing and keeping track of that. So I think it'll look really nice. I think it'll be a fun little like fading situation, but I really, really like it. I'm also loving the actual texture itself. It's very squishy, which is what half fisherman's rib and brioche is known for. It creates a very squishy, light fabric. And I'm like really enjoying it. It's making me want to cast on a actual like half fisherman's rib project. I don't know if I'm prepared to do a whole sweater in half fisherman's rib, but I get it. You know, I get the allure now. I'm also not really a shawl knitter. I've only ever knit one other shawl ever, and that was my October Hill shawl, which was my London shawl that I talked to you guys about, I think in like the first episode, like way, way, way long ago. So this is gonna be like my second ever shawl that I've ever made. That's gonna be like a shawl, like big, meant to wrap around you, like snuggle up in kind of thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty excited. I think after I do this one, I'm gonna wanna cast on the actual night shift shawl. The only reason why I didn't do that is because it is 5 colors, and that is a lot. 5 or 6, it's like 5 or 6 different skeins of Dream State from Spin Cycle, and that just seems like a lot of juggling that I don't want to deal with right now. Right now, the shift cowl, which is like the little sister of the night shift shawl, is probably all I can handle because it's only 3 skeins rather than like 6. So, but yeah, super enjoying it. It's turning out really great. I'm super excited. I really like the colors together. I like how much contrast I'm getting with my main color and the lathe. And I think it'll be really cool to see the transition, especially because lathe doesn't have as much color changing happening, but Family Jewels and the Meadows will definitely have more color changing happen. So I think that'll look really, really nice. So super excited to see how it goes. I also have 2 other whips that I have on the back burner, and that's the Happy Hot Socks and the Cozy Comfort Throw. The Cozy Comfort Throw is just gonna kind of be a project that's always gonna linger in the background. I'll work on it when I feel like it, but there's no like real deadline on it. It's just kind of working on it as I go, as I want to, so super low stakes. The Happy Hot Socks, I think I'm just not really enjoying that project. I think my issue with colorwork socks is I love them in theory. I think they're super cute, but having to do color work like that in such a small circumference kind of annoys me. I think it's because you have to catch your floats at the, like if you're doing magic loop, you have to catch your floats in such a way to where the float isn't like cutting across the empty space of the sock. But when I do that, my stitches look weird, and I feel like I always see the color that I'm catching poke through the front of the project. If you guys have any advice on how to avoid that, or links to videos or blog posts about a proper way to catch floats to where that doesn't happen, I would greatly appreciate it, because that's really causing me to not work on this project, even though I was super excited about it for Halloween. So maybe I'll finish them, maybe I won't, I don't know. Right now I'm just not super loving it, so I'm not gonna force myself to work on them, you know? All right, I don't have anything sewing wise to share with you guys because we're still kind of figuring out space in the apartment to accommodate for my sewing machine and all of the fabric that I have acquired. But I do actually have some spinning to share with you guys. I have a finished skein to show you, and it is this. Look at it. There we go. It's a little blown out because of my light, but this is Lake Cottage from Yarn Jam on their tweed Shiniko base. So Shiniko is a cross between Rambouillet and Merino, and there are some like tweedy neps in there of all different colors, yellows, reds, greens, blues, and you can kind of see them. You can kind of see them like right here. There's a red tweedy right here. It looks so good. I love this. I am actually beyond thrilled because this is the most consistent yarn I've spun, and I think it's a sport weight, guys. There are definitely some thick pieces, don't get me wrong, like that is a little ridiculous, not gonna lie, but I'm still learning. I think it turned out so good. So essentially what I did is I attempted a fractal spin. It was originally going to be a 3-ply, but I didn't quite split my fiber in the most intuitive way. Instead of splitting it in 3 and then separating those 3 chunks to achieve the fractal spin, I split it in half and then tried to split the second half again for the other 2 plies, and I was like, this isn't gonna work out. There isn't gonna be the right enough yarn right enough fiber for each ply. So it ended up just being a 2-ply. So I split it in half. The first half I set to the side and didn't do anything else with it. I didn't split it anymore. And then the second ply, I believe I split it into 5. Because originally what I did is I split that one in half, and then one half I got split again, and then the other half got split into 3. So in all actuality, it got split into 5 equal pieces. So I cannot wait to knit with this and see how it turns out. On the actual bobbin, you really could see like the fractal situation come through, which was super exciting. Fractal spins are very similar to what like Spin Cycle looks like, where it has like the larger color change, and then within that there's a smaller color changes that happen. I'm super excited. There's actually a make-along being hosted by emtothethird, who is local here in Portland. She is collaborating with a couple other creators, and we're doing a spin it to knit it Harlow hat, and I think I might use this to knit myself a Harlow hat. I also have some fiber that I want to spin up for Cameron, and I think I'm going to turn that into a Harlow hat as well, because I think the colors in that, if spun correctly, will do a really cool gradient situation that I will think will look really, really nice. So super pumped about this. I haven't washed it yet. I just skeined it up today before the episode, but it's looking about like it's going to be a sport to a DK weight, so I'm super excited. It's exactly the way that I wanted it to be in. I love it. It's super like squishy. It's not heavy. It's nice and lofty. So I think it turned out great. I did a short forward for this. Gonna wash this after the episode, so hopefully next episode I'll have the actual like wraps per inch, the weight, and yardage to share with you guys. And maybe if we're feeling spicy, I'll cast on for the Harlow hat. We'll have to see. But super excited that I finally got something off of my wheel. Hey Siri, stop timer. That's my bread timer. I'm making sourdough right now, so I'm checking for bulk fermentation. So I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so yeah, really enjoying this skein of yarn. I think it turned out really, really well. I can't wait to knit with it and see what it looks like as a knit fabric, and if it's going to do that kind of color shifting effect that I was hoping for. We will have to see, but I will keep you guys posted, and I can't wait to get to some more spinning and really dive into my fiber stash. Okay, so now let's talk about something exciting, and that is Sacred Sheep. Sacred Sheep is a new to me and new to most people yarn festival or fiber festival here in Portland, Oregon. I believe this was only the second or third year that Sacred Sheep has been a thing in Portland, and it was so much fun. I was super excited to go. It was really exciting to be able to go to a fiber festival that I didn't have to travel for. I was able just to like leave my apartment and drive like 7 minutes over to the venue and enjoy the fiber festival. It was super fun. They had a really big community space outside where a lot of people were just sitting and knitting. There was also a quiet tent, so if you just needed to kind of like take a break from all the people, because as we know, fiber festivals can be pretty intense just with the sheer amount of people that tend to go. So it's nice that there was a quiet tent available for those who were getting overstimulated or just kind of needed to take a break from everything going on around them, which was super great. They also had like food trucks, there was a coffee cart, they had a merch tent which had like bags and hoodies and t-shirts. And the actual venue itself, it was pretty small, which was kind of nice. It gave it very much more of an intimate feel. They also did timed ticket entry, so you could go into the marketplace as you pleased after your time ticket, but the time tickets were meant to kind of alleviate a large crowd from going into the marketplace and making it unenjoyable for everyone involved. Because sometimes if there's too many people in a fiber festival, you can't even see anything because there's just so many people and it's hard to move around and really enjoy the experience. So I thought that was super smart of them. After your time ticket, people still kind of trickled back in if they really wanted to, but the time tickets were, I think, 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. So you had quite a bit of time to kind of take your time and stroll through the marketplace. The marketplace was full of local dyers, local crafters, as well as others like Magpie Fibers, who is based in Maryland. They were there. Farmer's Daughter Fibers from, I believe they're in Montana. They were there, they had a booth there, but a lot of it was like Oregon, Pacific Northwest, local crafters, which was super cool. There was obviously a lot of yarn, but there was also like a potter there. There was someone selling essential oils and sprays. There was someone that was selling like prints and stamps and tea towels and postcards, things like that. Raikoko was there, which was the girl I bought my beaded granny square earrings from at Flock. She was there as well selling her wares. It was really, really nice. I went by myself. Cameron had to work one of the days that I went, but it was really fun because I went out to the community tent and I just kind of sat down at a table and made friends with the people that were there. And it was super fun to bond over a shared hobby. And I really, really enjoyed it. If you've never been to Sacred Sheep, I highly recommend it. It was a great event. It was run very, very well. The management was great. I had a wonderful time. And of course, when you go to a fiber festival, you have to buy yarn. I feel like that's a requirement. So, I didn't buy a lot. I bought something for 2 different projects. So I wasn't intending to buy Spin Cycle. But every time I see them at a fiber festival, I say that like I've seen them twice, at Flock and at Sacred Sheep. But Spin Cycle, the yarn is just so inspiring, and I love it when like I get to see the Spin Cycle people because they're so inspiring. They give such good advice for like choosing colors and yarn for projects. And they bring so much of their selection to the shows they go to, and oftentimes you don't see that much Spin Cycle in one place, so it's kind of hard to not get inspired when you're in their booth. So I went and I was actively working on this shift cowl, and I was enjoying working on this shift cowl so much that I knew I wanted to make another one. So I immediately beelined for Spin Cycle because this was the best opportunity to pick colors that I would want because there's gonna be so many options. So I went with these. There we go. I am kind of obsessed. So this is Deep Bump, which is like a very light blue that has like glimpses of like a mossy green, a gold, and then like a orangey yellow. Super, super pretty. You can kind of see that like gold situation there. There's like that right there. Focus on this, not me. There we go. And then I chose this, which is Wild Horses. This has the same like yellow tinge to it as this one does, but it's a little bit more intense. And then you have like these really pretty reds. There's like a blue purple. There's like a blue purple there. Greens, gorgeous. And then it's gonna blend into the ever so lovely Salty Dog. I love Salty Dog. It is a colorway from Spin Cycle that I have loved for a really long time, but I've never used or had a good project for, and I feel like this is gonna look so good. I haven't decided on the color like order yet of what's gonna be A, B, and C. I am favoring this because in my head it just gets more yellow as you go through, because you have those really small blips of yellow in the Deep Bump. You get more of the yellow in Wild Horses, but it's mostly the reds that are in there and the purples. But then you get into Salty Dog, which is like mostly shades of yellow. So I think it's gonna look so good. Cameron also now really wants a shift cowl, which was my excuse for buying yarn for a second one. But I like this one so much that I think I want this one. So maybe what's probably gonna end up happening is I'm gonna make both of them and then we'll just pick and choose whichever one we wanna wear that day. Not one of them is gonna be specifically mine or specifically his. But I really think I'm gonna like this one. I like this one a lot. It's funny because I feel like this is giving the same vibe as this one, but it's like lighter. Because like this is like a really dark blue-green. This is more of a light blue. I don't know. I think it's gonna look so good. I'm just really, really excited. I feel like it's gonna look really, really nice. I'm so excited. I kind of want to cast it on like right now, but I was trying to not burn myself out on the shift because I just finished this. Now I have this planned, and now I have the night shift also. So I'm trying to spread them out so I don't burn myself out on this stitch pattern. But super, super love how this is gonna turn out. They are a little more rich in person. My light is definitely kind of blowing them out a little bit. Sorry guys, my lighting is being a little weird right now. But I think it's gonna turn out great. I'm super, super excited. This was definitely not what I was planning on buying, but again, I was actively working on this shift cowl and I was enjoying it so much that I was like, I'm gonna wanna make another one. So I used that opportunity to get some more Spin Cycle. So my next purchase from Sacred Sheep is actually a sweaters quantity. And I was looking for just the right yarn for this intended project for a long time. So I really want to make the Traveler hoodie by Andrea Mowry. And I just had a picture in my head of what I wanted. And what I really wanted was to use, I think it's Recollect from Farmers That Are Fibers in their York colorway, which is this really pretty like emerald green blue that I thought would just look so gorgeous in the Traveler hoodie. The only issue is that they're 50-gram skeins, so I was going to need like 13 of them to make the sweater, and that yarn per skein is like $32 a skein. So that was gonna end up being like a $500 sweater, and I just could not afford that. So I was kind of keeping my eye open for different options when I was at Flock and when I was at Sacred Sheep, but I really wanted to be picky because I really wanted, the hoodie takes up a lot of yarn because of the stitch pattern and the fact that you're knitting the hood and an I-cord to go through the hood. So it just requires a lot of yarn. So I just wanted to make an educated purchase and pick the right yarn that I knew I was gonna love for this specific project. And y'all, I finally found it. And the color or the yarn that I chose is actually Nest from Magpie Fibers. Nest is their sport weight non-superwash base, and I chose the colorway Into the Mystic, which is this really, really pretty like icy lavender color. It's definitely more on the cool side, but I think this is gonna look so pretty. I originally wanted to do like a darker color, but I didn't want to do black and I didn't want to do gray, right? So I was kind of limiting myself, but when I saw this and I felt like it would look so good against my skin tone, I was sold. And it's sport weight, which is the weight recommended in the pattern. So I wasn't gonna have to worry about fingering versus DK. Is my gauge gonna be right? I'm super excited. I think it's gonna look so good. I think what I'm gonna do is after I finish Cameron's Rhue sweater, I'm gonna cast on the Traveler hoodie. I was originally gonna immediately cast on my Rhue sweater, but Cameron made a good point. He was like, hey, like maybe don't do that, because then you're gonna be like super over that pattern. So like give yourself a break, end it on something else. So then when you do make yours, you actually finish it, which is valid. I hate to say that the man knows me. So this will be casted on pretty soon once I finish Cameron's sweater. I don't like to have more than one like super big project going at a time. I really like to have like a nice sweater project and then like a medium or small project, so I have some variety. So if I don't want to work on a sweater, I can work on something else. So once once Cameron's Rhue sweater is completed, I will probably start swatching and knitting for my Traveler hoodie, and I'm so freaking excited. I just feel like it's something that I'm going to reach for all of the time and I will wear constantly. I do have a couple more acquisitions, and they're not from Secret Sheep, even though I'm honestly surprised that that's all I walked out with, because there was so many beautiful things at Sacred Sheep, but I was trying to be very intentional with what I bought, so I didn't drown myself in yarn that didn't have any plans. So we do love intentional knitting in this house. So super excited about these. My other acquisitions are actually advents. So I have only purchased one advent in my time of knitting, and that's the advent that I'm using for my Cozy Comfort throw, which is the Irish Artisan Yarns, an Irish Christmas advent from 2023. Y'all, I may have gotten a little crazy this year because I bought 3 advents. I don't know if it's FOMO or what the deal is, but I think I just loved the idea of opening up yarn every day leading up to Christmas. I feel like that's just gonna give me so much serotonin because I love Christmas and the holiday season. So I don't know, my brain just said buy it all. So I'll talk about the 2 that I have. There's one still on the way. So the first one I bought is from Explorer Knits, and it is their wool gatherer box. Their wool gatherer box is a couple different options. I don't remember, they had specific names for the actual advents, like the different types, but you had a foreskein that was just variegated yarns. You had a foreskein that was the tonal yarns. You had a box that was all 8 for the variegated and the tonal. And then there was like the day box, which I think was supposed to be, I wanna say it was like a sock set. I don't know. I just know that it was smaller than the foreskein option. So I got the variegated one because I love Explorer Knits' variegated yarns. And it's super cute. So it came with, I already opened it of course, but the yarn itself is actually already in little boxes. So you got this really cute print. Super excited. I want to frame this and hang it up because I think it's so sweet. And then it came with some stitch markers. And it's just this really cute little handmade, like little sheepy. Come on, there we go. It's a little sheep with the same background as the painting. These are just like the goodies. These were like just in the box. They're not part of opening it for the actual advent. Then there's this candle, which is called Beldamia Wool Gatherer. And it's fern, moss, bergamot, and lavender. Smells amazing, I won't lie. Oh, I can't wait. It's so good, so good. And then there was a cute little packet of like little field notebooks. Little field notebooks. There's 3 of them. And birch bark. Set of 3 birch bark 48-page memo books. And I believe it's like bullet journal style, so they're grid pages. And then here's the actual like little pamphlet that tells you all the different stuff. So essentially the wool gatherer box, each skein is inspired by a prompt, or not like a prompt, but like a feeling, or like what you would envision when someone explains like a feeling to you. So like, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But like, for example, one of them, like one could be like the feeling of getting lost in your favorite book. Like, what does that look like in a skein of yarn to you? That's an example of what each one looks like, which I thought was such a very cool concept. So I was like, give it to me, I want it. That's so freaking cool. So there's 4, because I did just the 4 skeins of variegated yarn. So this is what they look like, just in a little box with the number on it. And I believe the first one you open up on the 30th of November. Yeah. Because you open it up on the 30th of November, December 7th, December 14th, and December 21st. And that's if you have the 4 skein one. And then obviously if you have the 8 skein one, it's a little more different. But super excited to open this up, and they're full skeins. Most Advents are usually 20-gram mini skeins of either fingering weight yarn or DK weight yarn. These are 4 skeins of full skeins. So I'm super excited. They are gonna be posting inspo patterns for their wool gatherer box for the 4 skein option. So definitely gonna be keeping an eye out for those, because I feel like finding projects for Advents can be a little difficult if it's not like a shawl or a blanket. I don't wanna knit a blanket, and I don't think I want an Advent shawl either. So we'll have to see. So if you have any Advent patterns you love, drop them in the comments below, because I'd love to see them. So my other Advent that I got was from Knotty Pine Fiber Co. This is a yarn dyer that I've been wanting to try forever. They do a lot of small drops for their yarn business, so I've never been able to catch the actual drop so I could buy some of their yarn to try. But they did a pre-order for their Advent, and I thought that it would be a perfect opportunity to get my hands on some of their yarn and see if I like it. I love the colors they dye. Their inspiration for their colors is very like woodsy, typically, very like wild, like wilderness kind of vibes. And I am super stoked. Where's the little thing? So here's the info card that talks about the actual like Advent and like how the color progression works. If you don't want spoilers, if you have this Advent, you can just skip forward, but it's also in your note card, like you're not gonna see any of the colors. But I thought this was a really interesting way to organize the color story in an Advent. So what they did is they said the odd numbers are rich tonals with subtle variegation. Each odd number color is designed to contrast throughout the calendar. The even numbered colors are soft neutrals with pops of speckles and similar tones that enhance the vibrancy of the odd numbers. All of our even numbered colorways fade together in the background of our contrasting odd numbered colorways. So this is meant to be like a striped Advent. She even says the colorways in our very naughty Advent calendar are designed to stripe and contrast with one another while complementing each other for a beautiful cohesive project. And I think that is such a cool idea. I feel like most Advents are usually like starkly different colors from one another. Some do a fade. I think this is the first one I've ever seen where it's like a fade and also stripes, but it also all goes together at the same time. So I'm really intrigued to see how the colors play together. I'm really trying to keep an eye out for like stripy projects. I really kind of wanted to do like a garment out of this one, but the issue with that is that I am a larger person, so typically I wouldn't have enough yarn to do like a sweater with it unless I held it together with something else or got another main color, which I guess I could do, but I really don't want to buy more yarn for an Advent project, if that makes sense. So we'll have to see. Maybe if I love it as much as I think I will, I'll do that. We'll have to see, because I really loved the idea of doing like a Douglas cardi or like the Straya cardigan from Andrea Mowry, because I love the little thin stripes, but you need a lot of yarn for that, especially the Straya, because it's half fisherman's rib, which takes up more yarn because of the texture itself. So I don't really know what I'm gonna knit with either of these yet. I tried to not pick out Advent projects before I see the yarn, because you can have an Advent project pattern picked out and then you actually open the Advent and you're like, I don't know if I love what's happening in the colors with this project, and then you're kind of stuck. So I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna open them and enjoy opening yarn, and then once I see everything together, I think that's when I'll decide what I want to knit with the Advents. The third and final Advent that I'm waiting on is from Haley Bailey. She is a local dyer here in Oregon. I believe she doesn't live in Portland, but she lives nearby. She is doing a PNW inspired Advent calendar, and she posted some inspo pics, some like a vibe of what the Advent's gonna look like, and I like loved it so much. I also love her yarn. My sheep camp sweater is actually knit out of her yarn. It's her eucalyptus colorway and her oak moss colorway and her DK base, and I loved that yarn so much. It was so ridiculously soft, and it didn't like grow too much, and it doesn't pill a lot. I absolutely loved it. So it was kind of an easy decision to get her Advent. Have not received it yet though. She's still working on it and get everything shipped out, so I'm not particularly worried about it, but I'm super, super excited to see what her Advent looks like as well, especially with it being P&W inspired. Okay, so now let's talk about some life stuff and what's been going on lately. I have finished True Detective and Discovery of Witches. Discovery of Witches was so good. I definitely want to read the books now. A couple of my coworkers have actually read the books and they said they were really, really good, so I'm really excited to eventually read those. I also finished the 1st and 4th season of True Detective. It's so funny because the 4th season of True Detective was a little more like supernatural vibes. All in all, we found out who the actual like murderer was and the situation of the case, but it gave more like supernatural, paranormal vibes, and I thought that was really fun. It was definitely a different tone than the first season, because the first season was very much like we are trying to find a serial killer, like what is happening kind of thing. Really enjoyed it. I ended up not watching season 2 or season 3. My coworkers really said they just weren't that great and to like not even bother with it. So maybe later on, if I'm feeling like I don't have anything else to watch, I'll go back and watch season 2 and season 3. But as of right now, I'm pretty content with just watching season 1 and season 4. As of right now, I'm not really currently watching any particular shows. I've been super into Campaign 2 from Critical Role on YouTube. Critical Role is essentially a group of voice actors that gets together weekly and plays D&D, and they're all like super knowledgeable and like super into Dungeons and Dragons, so it's super cool to watch them play because they know how all of this stuff works. And Matt Mercer is a super great DM, and I love all the people that play. And they currently are on Campaign 3. They're pretty deep into it, and I just felt like I wasn't gonna be able to catch up because there's like 100 episodes. So I'm just starting with Campaign 2, and I think I'm only on episode like 5 because these episodes are like 3 hours long because they live stream it and then they post it on YouTube later. I'm really enjoying it. It's super fun. The characters that they've chosen to play are super fun, and they're like kind of finding their dynamic as they're role playing, and it's super cool. Loving it so much. It just makes me want to play D&D even more. My own personal D&D group, we have not been able to get together lately because we're getting into the holiday season, so everyone's kind of like doing their own thing with families and getting prepared for the holidays. So we are hoping to get together soon and play. But if you're really interested in D&D or don't know what it's about, I highly suggest checking out Critical Role because they're all super fun when they play, and they're all super knowledgeable about Dungeons and Dragons, so you do learn a lot by just watching. That being said, if you have any show suggestions, please drop them down in the comments. I'm kind of in a dry spell right now. There's not anything really piquing my interest, so I'm definitely open for suggestions. So if there's a show that you're really liking right now and it seems like my vibe, let me know down in the comments and I might check it out. When it comes to what I'm reading, I have finished Dune by Frank Herbert. Y'all, not my vibe, not gonna lie. Didn't love it. I didn't hate it, don't get me wrong. I like was enjoying it as I was reading it. It just wasn't my fave. I don't think I understand the hype very much. I was talking with one of my coworkers that she's also read it, and she pretty much summed it up pretty well for me. She was basically like, yeah, I could see how this was like groundbreaking back in the 70s and 80s when it was written, but now that we have such like an expansive genre of sci-fi and like space travel and intergalactic vibes, it's not really anything special. Like with Star Wars and Star Trek and all of those kind of things, it was just kind of mid to me. I don't think it was written very well. You pretty much knew from the beginning what was gonna happen, and like everything is laid out for you, so there was no like shock or like tension building or like climax or plot twist or anything. And like that's kind of what I like in a book, is like I don't want to know exactly what's gonna happen the whole time, because then what's the point of reading it if I already know what's gonna happen? So not my fave, no judgment if you love it. It's just, it wasn't my vibe, not my thing. So I think I've just determined that I'm not a sci-fi person when it comes to books, and I'm gonna probably just stick with my fantasy. As for what I'm currently reading, I finally got the second book in the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black from my library, and that is The Wicked King. I'm only like 30 or 40% of the way through the book right now, but it's really good. We're starting to hit to like the obstacle in the story of what they have to overcome, and the tension between the two main characters is starting to like bubble a little bit, and it's super exciting. It's a lot easier of a read than Dune. I'm already reading it faster than Dune, and I'm really enjoying it right now. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen. And then it's a trilogy, so there's only one other book after this. There is a like novella, I believe, that's about like Carden, which is the love interest, and like I don't really know that much about it, but I think it's about like his life and how he came to be the way that he is. I don't really know, or it's from his perspective. I don't know that much about it, but the actual main series is only 3 books. So I'm like almost done with it already. And I'm super excited to finish this and get on to the 3rd book, which is The Queen of Nothing. All right guys, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video and you want to stick around for some more crafty goodness, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And click that bell icon to get notifications for the next time that I post. Thank you all for stopping at my little crafty corner of YouTube and spending some time with me today. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, and I hope to get a little bit more consistent at posting some podcasts for you guys in the future. See you next time. Bye.